Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Memphis Police Association show. I'm joined today by Representative John Gillespie from the Fighting 97th, if I'm correct, and we're really excited to have him here. John's been a great friend to the MPA and to police officers here in Memphis and all law enforcement across the state. And we're going to get in and talk about some of the bills he's presented, some he's gotten passed, some he's working on, and most of them have a common denominator, which is pro law enforcement. So, John, it's great to have you here. Just to start off, I want you to tell our viewers what area do you cover and what's your district, and make sure that they know.
Yeah, thanks so much, John, for having me on here. Sure. So District 97, the newly drawn District 97, includes all of East Memphis, east of Highland Avenue, inside the loop, and then I go outside of the loop along the Poplar Corridor all the way to Kirby. So that's genuinely where I represent. So it's a big chunk of the city. Okay, great.
And it's 97 is yours. So if you go onto the Shelby Election Commission page and type in your address, it can tell you who all your. And if you go check in that area and you see John, just be looking for his name because you have an election coming up. What's the?
I do, yeah. So August is our primary, and then the November general election. So hopefully that will be pretty straightforward. I like to think I'm doing a good job. Haven't really drawn an opponent yet. So
well, that's always a good sign. Yeah. But just remember that name when you go to the polls. And after we get through talking, I think you will remember that name. So to start off with, well, what are some of the bills? I know residency is a big issue, and here in Memphis, we just don't have enough police officers. We've kind of fished the pool dry when you expand, and just talk about some of the work you've done on it, kind of where we are with it, and it hasn't been an easy road, has it?
No, you're absolutely correct. So I'm sure a lot of your viewers know this, that the residency requirement has not been an overnight. We've been talking about this for several years. Right. I've been in the legislature for only about a year and a half now, but since day one, I've been focused on residency. I was kind of hoping that the Memphis City Council would maybe help y'all out on this, and because they've been hesitant to do so, I believe that one of the primary responsibility of any government is the public welfare of the citizens, and public safety being paramount in that discussion. That's why the state is now involved, and we are taking this up a notch to really allow not just the Memphis Police Department, but the fire department and other agencies to hire the officers they want to hire. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept, and so
and and as you and I talked about it, it's not where you lay your head at night; it's where your heart is. Law enforcement's a calling, just like Teach for America. Kids come in to teach our youth that we don't. They're there to help and serve, and I think 99.9% of officers, the same way, and so. But that, and you've been a tremendous help on that, and the council had it and took it and never allowed the citizens to vote on it. In every poll we've taken, the majority of the citizens really want this.
Absolutely.
So the work you've done has been fantastic. But so you've been, you said in office about a year and a half, give or take.
Yep.
And I went on, because I've known you and I've kept up with a lot that you've done, but I logged on before we got in. I do some preparation, and I was amazed at really how many bills that you've sponsored or co-sponsored in your short time there, because I know a lot of cases, well, I shouldn't say a lot of cases, but in some cases, folks get elected and they like to get in front of the cameras, but you don't see the legislative hard work being put in. And you've got bill after bill. And I guess at first I want to get into several others, but I want to focus on the public safety law enforcement side. Can you just talk about a few of the bills that you're working on or pushing through or have passed dealing with public safety and helping officers do their jobs?
Yeah, so I ran on a platform of public safety, so there's really no hiding that. And, the fact that I was elected, I think that as a representative, I have to stay true to the words of why I decided to run, which was making Shelby County a safer place to live. Right. And one of my first bills that I actually passed and has been law now for 8 or 9 months is a drag racing law that basically increased the penalty for drag racing or organized street racing from a Class B misdemeanor to a Class A misdemeanor. And it gave a little bit more of a fine. And one of the problems, though, with that law that we passed is street racing doesn't always happen with two people racing in an organized fashion.
Right.
It always starts with one individual and goes from there. So this year I have a law that would expand the definition of reckless driving and create a new offense of aggravated reckless driving, which would be an A misdemeanor as well and a significantly higher fine. I think it's $5,000 fine. And so that would go after the individual doing donuts, the individual going at high speeds, weaving in and out of traffic, things of that nature. And then
I just want to say that's huge because you see the videos and what citizens post,
right?
And officers feel the same way. And a lot of times we're not there when it's happening, or even if we are, there's what are the penalties going to be? Seeing the people doing the donuts, and people have lives, trying to pick up their kids, go to work, and so I know that's a great bill. And thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the key issue. I mean, you shouldn't feel unsafe driving to the grocery store.
Right.
It's really that simple in my mind.
Okay, so what else do you have up on?
So along with the reckless driving and just erratic behavior driving, I have a third bill that just passed out of criminal subcommittee last week that would, if you run from the police or the sheriff's department in a motor vehicle and they don't catch you, but they can later find you and prove that you were in that vehicle, they will be able to civilly seize the vehicle on the front end. And I think, the drag racing bill, the reckless driving bill, and then the seizure bill collectively put in place, I think should make a pretty significant dent on some of this behavior we're seeing out on the roadways.
Well, I'll tell you this on the seizure bill. Right when John came up, he looked over, we see all these tacked vehicles and everything next door in the parking lot. And, I said, what are they? And my joke was, we've asked for too much in raises and they're coming to get us. But actually it was a group who'd come through and they were putting some of our hardware on display. But as we walked around and talked about, you talked about that seizure bill, and every officer we talked to, you saw the reaction they got. They said, good, finally some tools in the toolbox to really, deal with this problem. And so, that was, I know that's going to be very popular, and so we're very supportive of that. Anything else that?
Well, I'm glad you just mentioned the toolbox. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to give you and our DAs and prosecutors more tools in the toolbox. Anything that we can do to let y'all be more effective, that is my goal.
Right, and that's so needed. And I should throw this out too. We met on the gun walks, and these are the walks around the city that walks against gun violence, ways to honor the victims of gun violence, and you have a lot of nonprofits there that connect people at creating neighborhood watches and all this stuff. And of course, I was involved through the Crime Commission, and pretty early on. And this is one of the things I like about you, not trying to jump in front of a camera, not just walking. And I'd recognized you because I'd seen it, and then we kind of struck up a conversation, and just down to earth, really trying to do the right thing and support. Now, let me bring up one that maybe give you a little heartburn, but I think will show this how committed and you are to doing the right thing. I know there was a bill to open carry, and your party was strongly in favor. And and when it came up, you heard from the mayor, you heard from the sheriff, you heard from the police chief, and you heard from us that it's from law enforcement's point of view, especially in Memphis, that we did not think that would be helpful to what we're trying to do. And you voted against it.
I did.
And you took some heat for that.
I did.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
But, I just want to say what it said to me was, you're strong with your party, you work with your party, but when it came down to when you said when the local law enforcement leadership and the officers come to me and tell me something, I have to listen. And so I was appreciative that it's like, and we knew you were going to take some heat. You did take some heat, but I tell you, the people here locally really appreciated it in law enforcement. That was huge, because it told us that you really are, when push comes to shove, you're going to follow your conscience and follow the advice of law enforcement. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And if I may touch on that a little bit.
Absolutely. Please.
I am, my day job is in nonprofit development. I am not a public safety expert, nor am I a doctor, nor am I a nurse. So when items are brought to me by the experts, such as yourself, I have to listen to that.
Right.
Because y'all are the experts, I am not the expert, and I represent you.
And I deal with a lot of politicians, and genuineness is not a common thing, completely. But, there's a lot of good politicians working out there. But I have said in many meetings when something came up, and, the elected person will say, well, I'm with you, but, geez, I got to look at my numbers, I got to do that. You didn't do that. You said, I want to do the right thing, and the people that I respect, the experts in this, are telling me this, so I'm going to do the right thing. So, but that was a great step and said a lot, I thought. Now, I looked at, you've also had quite a few bills with elder abuse, which is another important aspect. Can you talk a little bit about that? You seem to be a real champion.
Well, so back to my day job, I work at Tresment Manor, a long-term care facility with independent living through end of life. And so that is obviously a matter that I care deeply about. And we, for years, have really focused a lot on children's services, which is wonderful. We need to work so much more in that area, but we've kind of forgotten this the elder in that same conversation. And right now, we have baby boomers that are retiring and starting to not be able to care for themselves, and the population is only going to increase more. And if we want to prevent some of these horrible things that happen when the elderly are taken advantage, we have to be in Tennessee on the forefront of that and to prepare for the influx of those that will not be able to care for themselves in the future.
Because you're right, because as the boomers age, well, it's called the boom for a reason. It was such a huge number. And I encourage everyone to go to the Tennessee state page and look at John's page. It'll jump out at you. So, there's a lot of law enforcement stuff, but there's also, a lot of other topics, and that's one that was important. So we kind of covered a lot of the thing and where you stand. And I did want to get into what, politics is... it's something where in some people's view these days, like going to the police is a tough job to take on. What made you, was it something early on that you got interested in and you always were heading that way, or what drew you into politics? Yeah,
so right after high school, I took a job with then Mayor of Chattanooga, Bob Corker, when he ran for the first Senate race back in 2006. I worked on that campaign for about 6 months and then ended up going to college, getting a degree in political science. I knew I wanted to go to Washington, D.C. I spent about a year and a half up there working for the College Republican National Committee, and finally came back here. And like most politicians, where they get their start, I started to kind of complain and gripe about certain issues. And my predecessor, the late Jim Coley, who was a champion of law enforcement, but specifically human trafficking and preventing domestic abuse, approached me literally and set me down and told me that he was going to retire and would I be interested in running. So pretty unusual way to get involved in that sense, but I said yes, and here we are.
And then off and running. And then, now, and we talked, and I've been up to Nashville recently a couple times, mainly on the residency bill, and so I got a kind of a taste of it. The building's beautiful, and then but then the bustle and the energy of it, because you told me, and I said, what is this, John, a part-time job? And you explained to me, and you can explain it better than me, but when you got up there, it's like your schedule is full from the start of the day to the end. So what's the pace like?
The pace is probably when I'm not in committee or not presenting a bill, my calendar is booked Monday through Wednesday in 15-minute increments. And I have people, this week I had a meeting that was 15 minutes about a pipeline in Chattanooga. And then immediately after that meeting, I had a meeting about suicide. So it's very stressful and very diverse, the topics, but it is nonstop.
Right.
And then to couple that, every evening we have all these special interest groups come up and try to inform us throughout the day of, what they care about, whether it be I think this week we had the nurse practitioners that are anesthesiologists.
Right. Right.
So it's very rewarding, but an information overload for sure.
So I can imagine you go from one meeting about one topic, and then boom, you're in the next meeting. It could be no relation whatsoever.
Oh yeah.
And I got to when I was in school, I did history and political science for my background as well, but. Actually, and because I've been involved here in seeing the council work things out. I always talk about the sausage getting made.
Yeah.
Because it is, you've got a lot of different interest groups competing, and you're trying to hammer out, and that's politics at its best. You try to work through and find common ground. So I got to watch some of that process on the residency bill behind the scenes, and it was fascinating. But it's that dichotomy of what the public sees is kind of these votes happen, but behind it, so much work goes into so much conversation. And has that been kind of a revelation to you, the work just to get something passed? Or
well, with my background being in D.C., I kind of already was exposed to some of it, but honestly, I really didn't have any idea of how much goes on behind the scenes, how much work. And it can be something as simple as, there could be a bill that changes our alcohol laws, and everyone could be in agreement on the bill itself, but 3 different organizations will have a problem with the date that it's being implemented, and you can be arguing for 2 hours about, does it go into effect in June or does it go into effect in December?
Right.
So it's just little things like that have caught me off guard.
Well, I guess it's the devil in the details. And at the MPA, we deal with it on the smaller level. Our members will say, why did you do it that way, or why is it taking so long? But it's one thing, and a lot of people have a lot of great ideas. And, I could very well call you with a great idea, but that's the easy part. Implementing it, getting in there, and that's where the really hard work comes into. And I think, generally, politicians, get a bad rap because it seems like, these politicians don't know what they're doing. But when you get to know people and see the process, you appreciate it more. And then to meet someone like you and who's really dedicated and puts the work in and is really driven. And I think you're building a real reputation up there as a legislator.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I hear it from their folks, and so and then your willingness to really stand up and listen, and for Memphis and Shelby County is fantastic. So just think, you have to run every 2 years. Is that correct? So that's got to be.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So you get elected, and almost immediately, part of your time is like, I got this next.
Yeah, and also you got to remember that we are citizen legislators. We are not up there full time.
That's right.
We have at best a part-time pay while we're up there, it's 16-hour, 17-hour days. And then when we're back home in the district, we're out actively working, doing things like what I'm doing right now. And I still have a day job that I have to go to, and now I'm running for re-election. So
right. It's all this,
all at the exact same moment. So,
and I don't think I've ever seen. Well, maybe one time I've seen you out of a suit because you're always, you got, you know, something coming up, something you got to do, and but no, it's been a great experience working with you and all this stuff. So again, so you're, as of now, you don't have a primary.
No primary.
Okay, and then your general election will be
in November.
Okay. And I have no doubt we will be getting together with you and our PAC committee, and as we make our endorsements, I would see that you will be one of the easiest endorsements that we'll probably ever do as far as
thank you,
how great you've been, and how and again, I just can't stress enough being able to just pick up the phone and call or text, and to have that instant feedback is not always the norm, and it is noticed and appreciated.
And please feel free to share my contact information with any of your members.
Absolutely.
I really do mean that, because I do need y'all's input. We can't create good legislation without having the input of those people that are actually having to implement that legislation. Right.
Well, absolutely, and we'll be sharing that and up on the screen when we, of course, we're live on Facebook, but we're also taping, and I'm going to put up some information to how to contact your office and things of that nature too. So we had, again, I said earlier, we got here and there was a big staging event going on, and we got to meet Anthony the Bloodhound.
Yes.
Who I have seen pictures of it, have never actually met in person.
That's surprising.
Yeah, it just said in this one, and I was shocked how big he is.
Yeah.
Did you see his paws? I looked
pretty big, yeah.
It's like, my dog's 3 years old. This dog's paws as big as her head. She's but he was
he's very sweet.
Well, we walked up. John wanted the chance to meet Anthony, and the handlers immediately get the
wipes,
the slimy rag for me, and hand you wipes. Because but he was just a big sweetheart, and one of the officers there. He and Anthony had a life-saving situation, and John kind of jumped in and said, that he's getting an award for that here locally, and I think John's going to look to do something on the state, maybe have Anthony visit the state with his handler and get. And so the officer's eyes lit up, and before we started taping, it's little things like that that when these guys get acknowledged for the hard work they do and that pat on the back, you can just kind of see that means a lot. And so I was so happy that we kind of just ran into that situation.
Yeah, just by accident.
So what else do you have on the horizon, or any programs or bills in mind?
So I wanted to also touch, we talked about the dangerous driving conditions here in the Memphis area, and quite frankly, they're everywhere across the country. But another kind of passion that I'm working on is truth in sentencing laws.
Oh, that's right, yes.
We have a revolving door, whether it be at 201 Poplar or in our state prison systems. And I have there's many bills out there that the Speaker of the House is carrying, and so are some other members. But I have 3 bills specifically that would require 100% time served to those convicted of aggravated assault and aggravated robbery. And then I have a second bill that would, if you commit aggravated assault with a firearm, then that is automatically 1 felony level up from whatever your charge is, whatever the DA is recommending. So, I think a lot of the issues we have and a lot of these homicides that are happening, you look at the people that are the suspects' information, and almost half of them, maybe more than half of them, have been in and out of the system with aggravated assault and aggravated robbery charges, and they're serving little, if any, time for those. And if they were in prison, let's say the judge sentences them to 13 years, they may be in the prison system for a couple months, and they're back on the street and they're doing the same crimes over and over, and eventually someone dies. And it's tragic and heartbreaking, but it has to be stopped.
Absolutely. And you'll talk to any officer, they have those same, frustrations. And that sometimes you arrest people for something horrific, and then you look at their record and it's like, why was this person out, And I know you feel this way in kind of the MPA, and my thought is like, if people need a helping hand or programs to help them step up, step forward, and better themselves, we try to have that hand out. But also on the other hand, if you are making bad decisions, hurting others, that there has to be real consequences. But not only to keep folks from a revolving door and coming out and do the same things, but is to let the others know to think twice. And I think that's so important, and that's at the root of we'll always need officers. Currently we need more officers in Memphis, but long-term foundational things that really start to solve some of the problems are bills like that. So I think that's extremely important.
And if I can mention one more
absolutely.
item
Sure.
about the revolving door, one of the things that I did this summer, I wanted to see really how 201 Poplar works from the ground up. So I
committed a crime and
correct. So no, I did not commit a crime, but I asked to be basically to pretend like I've been arrested, and
so
to go through the
process.
And I go into the garage, I stand in the little box and wait for the person behind the window, and had an officer next to me the entire time. And first of all, I saw just how draining it is. We're already short officers. How draining it is for whether it be a Memphis police officer, a Bartlett police officer, or a sheriff's deputy for that matter, sitting there waiting for the suspect to be processed, and they're not out on the street during that entire time. I wanted to see that firsthand, just to see exactly what y'all do every day in those situations. And I don't have a solution yet, but know that I'm working on it.
Well, and I see some smiles as we have some officers in the room, and I'll tell you, only officers really know what that's like. And for you to take the time and go do it just to see what it's like, now you understand, and that's one of the things I've been so supportive of you about, that you really want to understand what it's like.
Yeah.
And when you say draining, I think all the officers in here would agree it is draining. And then when we got to have a solution, because I left my partner out there, and God only knows what they have to deal with. But no, I appreciate that, and that's how you learn and understand. And so that's amazing. So I'm glad you did, and I'm glad you didn't actually commit. You weren't so committed to the role that you committed a crime just to go through the whole the process. But so no, that's fantastic. So
and that process that was about 3 hours.
That's right. See,
it was a while.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got a real taste of what it's like. So that's great. Well, I really appreciate you coming by. Again, when I called and asked you, I was not surprised that you said yes, because that's who you are. You're so accessible. And again, thank you for all the great work you've done. Thank you for the work on residency, but all these other bills are really supported by law enforcement, and I think by the majority of citizens who understand that we just have to have a safer Memphis, and we need more folks like you working hard like this. So,
absolutely.
But thank you again. Is there a website people can go to, or Facebook, or what's the best way to get information? We'll put them up too.
So I do have a government website, and that's honestly, I don't really know what that website is. I think it's but my email address is rep.john.gillespie@capital.tn.gov. I don't know who came up with those email addresses, but you can also go to my personal website, which is just votejohngillespie.com.
Okay.
And get more information. Subscribe to an email list if you so desire. I promise I won't bother you that much.
Right. I'll use my editing skills, and right now those addresses should be up on the screen.
Okay, good.
If I think I can pull it off. But also, if you just Google John Gillespie, Tennessee, you'll get a whole host of things. You get a lot of information, and all of it's really good. So again, John, thank you. This has been a real pleasure talking to you. And I just wanted to make sure that people viewing, the officers viewing, to understand how hard he is working for public safety on the state level, and really, share with other people, let them know what he's doing, because these are real proactive things that'll work. But again, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure, as I said. So everyone, once again, thanks for watching. Stay safe, take care of each other, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Bye.
If you walk through the garden, you better watch your back. Well, I beg your pardon, walk a straight and narrow track. If you walk with Jesus, he'll save your soul. You gotta keep the devil